At 33, I'm planning to get married. Domingo sneered coldly. Fine. You said it. 3 months later, he ran into me at the OB/GYN department. His lips twisted into a mocking smirk. Laura, is this your scheme? Before I could respond, an attractive man emerged behind me, gently holding my arm. Domingo stared at me in disbelief. I faintly smiled, extending my hand adorned with a wedding ring. At 33, I got married. After a passionate encounter, I winced through the soreness in my body as I got up and sat on the edge of the bed to get dressed. Domingo was propped up against the headboard, about to light a post-coital cigarette. I spoke calmly, though my fingers clutched the bedsheet tightly, turning pale from nervousness. At 33, I'm getting married. Domingo's cigarette paused mid-drag before he scoffed, his voice husky with lazy arrogance. What's that supposed to mean? Expecting a proposal? In the reflection of the bedroom window glass, Domingo's figure was visible, every trace of mockery on his face clear to see. Seeing that I didn't respond, Domingo's lips curled into a sneer. Laura, you know perfectly well someone of your background could never be my wife. The last shred of hope in my heart sank into the abyss, leaving only quiet acceptance. After a long silence, I spoke, well. Just wish me happiness. Domingo instantly grasped my implication and drawled dismissively. Fine. Your words. Domingo threw off the blanket and headed toward the bathroom. With the loud slam of the door, the distance between us was fixed, separating us into two spaces. I picked up my canvas bag from the floor and took the few changes of clothes I kept inside his wardrobe. The clothes and jewelry Domingo had given me were left in the wardrobe. I didn't take them. They were never truly mine. The money Domingo had given me over the years was more than enough for me to live comfortably. It was, perhaps, compensation for my youth. When Domingo stepped out of the bathroom, the room was completely silent. The only clothes strewn across the floor were his own. It was as if no woman had ever set foot in the room. But Domingo remained utterly unconcerned. Laura had acted out before, but she never stayed away for more than 3 days without returning. So Domingo wasn't worried. He was certain Laura couldn't possibly live without him. He wasn't sure whether he loved Laura. But he knew one thing for sure: Laura was hopelessly in love with him. The next day, I submitted my resignation letter and booked a flight to Sanya. There's nothing a vacation can't solve. If one isn't enough, then two. By the time I arrived in Sanya, the sky had already grown dark. I booked a guest house. The inn had a swimming pool. Domingo had taken me to such private pools before. But his friends never liked me, so I always ended up sitting alone by the pool, sipping on a drink. This time was different. Wearing a bikini I had just bought from a roadside shop, I got into the water. I learned to swim as a child. I wasn't particularly good, but I could at least keep myself from drowning. As I swam, I noticed a small opening on one side of the pool, beyond which there seemed to be an even larger pool. And from there drifted a faint scent of lemons. Delight washed over me. This inn had a hidden surprise waiting to be uncovered. I swam through the small opening and arrived on the other side. No wonder there was a lemony scent here. There was a lemon tree in the small flower bed next to the pool. Fresh lemons emitted a faint, pleasant scent. After a few strokes, I noticed the bikini straps digging uncomfortably into my shoulders. This was the most daring swimsuit I had worn in years. Aside from the key areas being covered, everything else was a web of black straps. It accentuated my fair, delicate skin even more. I stood up and tried adjusting the shoulder straps, but couldn't quite get them adjusted properly. So I thought I'd take it off and put it back on again. Just as I had taken off my top, a raspy husky voice came from behind me. Hey beautiful, you came to my place just to take your clothes off? The voice from behind startled me so much that my hair stood on end. I spun around reflexively toward the direction of the voice. Though I clutched my chest, someone with my figure could never conceal such prominent cleavage. The strikingly handsome man behind me paused momentarily when he saw me, then quickly composed himself. As he shifted his gaze aside, You've strayed into my property. I'm so sorry, I got mixed up. I'll leave right away. I turned around and swam back the way I had come. But I could still feel the man's heavy-lidded gaze burning into my back. That night as I lay in bed, for no reason, the image of the man surfaced in my mind. His tousled hair, sharp nose, rosy lips, and toned muscles. His entire being radiated the magnetic allure of a seasoned man. Shaking off the jumbled thoughts in my mind, I drifted into a heavy, drowsy sleep. But in the middle of the night, the sudden ringing of my phone jolted me awake. Still half asleep, I fumbled to answer the call. A familiar voice sounded from the other end. It was Domingo. He sounded drunk. "Laura, come pick me up from the bar." If it were the old me, I would have rushed over without a second thought to be Domingo's caretaker. But now all I felt was annoyance at having my rest disturbed. I rubbed my drowsy head in irritation, my voice flat and emotionless. "Domingo, we're done. Go bother your current fling." Without waiting for a reply, I hung up and rolled over to resume sleeping. At the bar, Domingo's face darkened as he listened to the abruptly ended call. Domingo's grip tightened around the phone, betraying his current fury. Chenin, who was sitting nearby, didn't he notice Domingo's unusual demeanor? Chenin asked curiously, "Domingo, is Laura coming soon?" Another person scoffed. "With all of Domingo's charm, do you even need to ask?" Domingo briefly embraced the woman beside him, and she nestled limply into his arms. Domingo laughed recklessly. "She's been played out. Just called some new chick to pick me up, gotta change things up tonight." The group burst into laughter. Domingo, the man. I spent a few days in Sonia before returning to my hometown. With the remaining money, I bought myself a small 2-bedroom apartment. I had always dreamed of opening a dessert shop, and now I can finally realize that dream. I rented a storefront in a neighboring street, and renovations commenced shortly afterward. During this time, I wasn't idle. I got myself a super membership at the matchmaking agency. Everything I had told Domingo was true. I genuinely wanted to get married. I also wanted to have my own child. The matchmaking agency moved quickly. Within just 2 days, they had arranged 3 blind dates for me. The first man was a small business owner, his every gesture exuding an air of superiority. At 38, his bald head shone so brightly I had to squint. The second one was a working-class individual of similar age to me. He looked plain, but from the very start of the blind date, he kept subtly probing into my savings. When I mentioned owning an apartment, his eyes instantly brightened. And he eagerly proposed we get married immediately. I simply smiled and said, "We barely know each other. Let's take some time to get to know each other better." The third man was a university professor. However, when I saw him, I froze on the spot. It was the same man I had encountered in Sonia. According to the matchmaking agency's profile, his name was Benjamin Chen and he was 35 years old. Benjamin was dressed in a neat black suit and wore gold-rimmed glasses, his hair neatly combed back. His well-defined forehead and high-bridged nose complemented his striking features, which would undoubtedly draw attention even outside the matchmaking market. When Benjamin saw me, a flicker of surprise flashed through his dark eyes. "Ms. Laura?" A flicker of surprise crossed Benjamin's eyes as he saw me. I nodded, and he took a seat across from me. Facing the man, I forced an awkward smile. "Mr. Benjamin, what a coincidence." "Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin. Benjamin." As I observed Benjamin, his striking features and refined demeanor, I couldn't help feeling puzzled. The matchmaking market wasn't short on beautiful women, but I had never seen a man this handsome needing to go on blind dates. The matchmaking scene isn't short of beautiful women, but this is the first time I've seen such a handsome man here. "Mr. Benjamin, how long have you been in the matchmaking scene?" Benjamin took a sip of his coffee, his dark eyes meeting mine. "My first." I let out an awkward laugh. "What a coincidence, I just started dating too." Benjamin's large hand rested on the table, his long fingers tapping the surface rhythmically. I caught a glimpse of the luxury watch peeking out from beneath his cuff. I've seen this watch on Domingo before. A single one like this would cost a lifetime's wages for an ordinary person. Is a university teacher this rich? Then I recalled what he had said when we met in Sonia, that the house was his. As I was lost in thought, Benjamin asked casually, "Miss Laura, what qualities do you seek in a partner?" Huh? I blinked, caught off guard. Just a normal person. Someone to spend life with, taking care of each other. That's enough for me. Benjamin's lips curled slightly. Ms. Laura's requirements aren't high. I smiled and nodded, trying to ease the awkwardness, and asked without much thought, "What about you, Mr. Benjamin?" Benjamin leaned back lazily in his chair, looking at me as he said, "You're exactly what I look for in a partner." Benjamin. Ms. Laura. Mr. Benjamin. Benjamin. Ms. Laura. Mr. Benjamin. Benjamin. Ms. Laura. Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin. Benjamin. Domingo. Benjamin. Benjamin. Benjamin S. Laura. Benjamin S. Chen family. Benjamin S. Benjamin S. Chen family. Benjamin A. Benjamin S. After lunch at the Chen residence, the weather took an unexpected turn and heavy rain suddenly started pouring outside. Concerned about travel safety, Benjamin's father and mother persuaded us to stay for dinner. Having spent the entire afternoon with them, I was gradually growing accustomed to the Chen family's atmosphere. When the housekeeper auntie presented an array of exquisitely arranged dishes, I couldn't resist taking a photo. Only after taking the photo did I notice Benjamin's arm captured in the frame, mid-motion as he ladled soup into my bowl. His forearm had defined muscles with subtly visible veins, the kind that clearly belonged to someone who worked out regularly. His distinct, slender fingers gripped the soup bowl. To use a trending saying online, hand-con enthusiasts, feast your eyes. Pleased with my photography skills, I posted my first WeChat moment since separating from Domingo. The caption read, "Hearing the wind come, awaiting the rain to cease," accompanied by the photo I had just taken. After posting it, I placed my phone aside. Benjamin placed the bowl of golden yellow chicken soup in front of me, his voice carrying a hint of cheerfulness. "The nanny simmered this with medicinal herbs. It's warming, drink up." I stared at Benjamin in a momentary daze and was reminded of a night some time ago. That night, my period cramps woke me up in the middle of the night. I felt so weak and dizzy that I thought I might pass out at any moment. My parents had passed away, and I had no relatives or friends here. In the end, the only person I could ask to buy painkillers for me was Benjamin. He picked up quickly, his voice hoarse from sleep. His voice was hoarse, clearly roused from sleep, but his tone remained calm, devoid of any irritation. "Laura, what's wrong?" "Mr. Chen, could you please get me some painkillers? I can't move at all right now. Otherwise I'd order delivery myself." Benjamin's tone suddenly grew urgent. I could hear the rustling of fabric as he hurriedly got dressed. "Laura, what's wrong? Where does it hurt?" "I'm on my way now," I said weakly. "It's not a big deal. Please just buy me a box of painkillers." Benjamin arrived quickly since I had already given him my door code. When he arrived, he found me lying on the bedroom bed, my face ghostly pale. Perhaps my appearance was truly alarming. For the first time, a flicker of panic surfaced across his perpetually composed features. His voice, though steady, carried a sense of urgency. "Laura, are you okay? I'm taking you to the hospital." Without waiting for a response, he scooped me up from the bed. Seeing me in my thin nightgown, he hastily bundled me into his oversized coat. Dazedly, I was taken to the hospital by Benjamin. The doctor administered an IV drip, and the pain from my cramps gradually subsided. The doctor diagnosed that consuming raw and cold foods before the onset of my period had caused the cramps. Then, glancing at Benjamin beside me, the doctor added in a slow, deliberate tone, "A harmonious sexual life can actually help alleviate menstrual pain." My face, still pale from the pain, instantly flushed with heat at the doctor's words. Flustered, I quickly tried to explain, "No, doctor, he's not." Before I could finish, Benjamin cut in smoothly, his voice calm and serious. "Understood. Thank you, doctor." That night, when Benjamin took me home, my whole body was burning up all over. Thankfully, Benjamin didn't mention it. As I gazed at the steaming bowl of delicious chicken soup before me, a sudden warmth flooded my heart. It had been so long since I last felt this way, like someone truly had me in their heart. Smiling, I looked at Benjamin. "Professor Chan, you're really thoughtful." After dinner, the rain had lessened but still hadn't stopped. Mrs. Benjamin's mother insisted that Benjamin and I stay overnight. Unable to decline, I looked toward Benjamin. Benjamin watched me with an amused smirk, deliberately remaining silent and clearly relishing the scene. Benjamin's mother specifically instructed the housekeeper not to prepare the guest room, insisting that I stay in Benjamin's room. Since we had already met each other's parents, staying together seemed like a normal thing. I didn't say much, but upon entering Benjamin's room, I now felt nervous. Benjamin hadn't returned yet. His father had summoned him to handle company matters. I gave myself a quick wash in the bathroom, and then Benjamin's mother brought me a brand new set of pajamas. When I put on the pajamas, they felt rather ill-fitting, barely covering what they should. The pajamas were a two-piece set, consisting of a sleeveless nightgown as the inner layer and a long-sleeved cover-up for the outer layer. But the nightgown might be a size too small for me, barely reaching the tops of my thighs. One wrong move and I'd be revealing more than I intended. Self-consciously, I adjusted the nightgown to avoid exposing myself and hurriedly buried myself under the covers. Only then did I have time to check my phone and saw that my WeChat Moments post had already accumulated 99 plus notifications. Curious, I clicked to check. Never before had I received so much engagement on a post. Upon clicking in, I discovered that apart from the likes from a few former classmates and coworkers, the rest were all comments from Domingo's gang of so-called friends. Holy crap, did I see that right? Is that a man's arm? Laura isn't serious about this, is she? Domingo's gonna flip when he sobers up tomorrow morning. Domingo is now curled up with a lovely woman. Why would he still think about her? Yeah. Domingo could get any type he wants. This isn't Laura S playing hard to get ploy, is it? Then she is pretty calculating. Just another one of women's little tricks. Ha 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 ha. I can't wait to see Laura eventually come crying and begging to Domingo. Me too, I'd love to see that. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the chaotic mess in the comment section, I was overwhelmed with annoyance. I hadn't deleted Domingo and his gang before simply because I didn't see the need. But now I felt they were polluting my feed. Resolutely, I replied in the comments section, "Thanks for your concern, but rest assured you'll be disappointed. I'll be living my best life." Then I blocked and deleted every single one of them, one by one. This trash should be been kicked out of my life ages ago. Just then, the sound of the door opening came from the doorway, then the familiar sound of footsteps. Nervously, I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. The footsteps lingered briefly by the bed before heading toward the bathroom. Shortly after the bathroom door opened again, the bed dipped on the other side, and Benjamin's familiar scent wafted over. A faint citrus fragrance, the scent of his body wash intertwined with Benjamin's unique natural aroma. It was utterly intoxicating. I held my breath, not daring to move a muscle, yet Benjamin slowly inched closer. Suddenly, a strong arm wrapped around my waist. Startled, I let out a sharp gasp. My eyes flew open, meeting Benjamin's half-smiling gaze. His voice emerged low and husky, "I knew you weren't asleep." I stared at him wide-eyed. How did you know?" Benjamin was close to me, I could feel his warm breath. "I don't believe you can possibly sleep through a night like this." Benjamin gazed at me with a playful smile, yet he seemed like a wolf in sheep's clothing, as if he might devour me any second. I could feel the large hand at my waist tighten its hold. I heard Benjamin ask softly, "Can I?" I kept my head down, not responding for what felt like an age. just as the hand at my waist began to loosen its hold. Just as he was about to pull away, I reached up and grabbed his arm. Barely above a whisper, my voice quivered, "Mm-hmm." In the next second, he pinned me beneath him, his lips crashing down against mine with unrestrained hunger. I always knew he had a great body, but I never imagined he would feel this good to the touch. Though there was one problem: he was too rough. My nightgown was tossed aside. Every inch of skin his lips had kissed hummed with a tingling electricity. And the last shred of rationality was about to be washed away. My face flushed a rosy pallor, burning hot, the heat spreading all the way to the roots of my ears. That night, we both lost control. Fearing our sounds might escape the room, I did everything to muffle myself, yet Benjamin only grew more exhilarated. But the more I tried to hold back, the more excited Benjamin seemed to become. A sharp phone ring startled me awake early in the morning, but I was too tired to get up. I burrowed deeper under the blankets and went back to sleep. Benjamin slipped out of bed quietly and walked to the balcony to answer the call, his morning voice laced with a sleepy rasp. "Hello?" The person on the other end panicked upon hearing the unfamiliar voice. "Who the hell are you? Where's Laura?" Benjamin frowned, his patience thinning. "She's asleep." "Who is this?" The voice grew agitated. "She is sleeping? You two last night?" Benjamin let out a mocking chuckle. "We're getting married. Is it strange we spent the night together?" The caller went silent for a moment before letting out a bitter laugh. "Laura, you really will stop at nothing. Using such cheap tricks to deceive me? Do you think I'll get jealous? Women like you are a dime a dozen. I could just wave my hand and summon another." Benjamin frowned deeply. "Go get treated if you're sick." "Don't go crazy here," he retorted and hung up. Staring at the number on his phone for a moment, Benjamin finally returned to the bedroom. I was still asleep. Benjamin pulled me into his arms, a satisfied smile forming on his face. Waking up from last night's exhaustion, it was already nearly 10 in the morning. The moment I saw the time, I immediately sat up. Benjamin, lying beside me and playing with my hair, jolted in surprise at my movement. "What's wrong?" I grabbed my head in frustration. "This is my first time coming to your home and I already overslept. What should I do now?" Benjamin chuckled. "They don't mind. Sometimes they wake up around this time too." With a teasing smile, he added, "Besides, they understand these things." Noticing the amusement in Benjamin's eyes, my face flushed. "Oh, stop it," I protested shyly, covering my burning cheeks. Benjamin told me about the phone call. I could guess right away it was Domingo. In the past, I would have interpreted such behavior as him caring for me. Now, I simply find it childish and ridiculous. Because of that night, my relationship with Benjamin took a leap forward. He would come up with all sorts of excuses to stay over at my place. Even my baby kitten loved him so much, she would rub against his legs whenever he came around. It made even me, the owner, a little jealous. Soon, the wedding date was finalized. We invited only close relatives and friends from the Chen family, holding a forest-themed ceremony on a grassy field, exactly the kind of wedding I'd always envisioned. At the wedding, I watched the man step closer to me with each stride, like happiness itself beckoning me forward. That night, slightly drunk, Benjamin pressed me down onto the bed, his large hand gently caressing my cheek. "Perfect, you're mine now," he murmured with deep satisfaction. The dessert shop opened as planned. The desserts I made quickly became a hit among the nearby university students. Just as my career was starting to flourish, I found out I was pregnant. Staring at the 2 lines on the pregnancy test, my hands trembled as I texted Benjamin, "I think I'm pregnant." A reply came moments later. "What?" I replied helplessly, "Pregnant," and sent over the photo of the pregnancy test. Benjamin responded with a scowling emoji. I was puzzled. "What do you mean?" I just got my happy life started, and now the little one's coming to snatch you away. Not cool." I burst out laughing at his childishness. "Really? How childish?" He replied again, Actually, it's better this way. Having the baby sooner is good for your recovery. Babe, I'm leaving work now, let me take you to get checked. No need to rush, need to confirm it properly so I can relax. Soon, Benjamin's car appeared in front of the dessert shop. After briefing the staff, I left with him. At the hospital, the checkup went off without a hitch. I was 5 weeks pregnant, and the baby was perfectly healthy. Counting the days, I realized the baby was conceived that night at the Chin family's house. The doctor was briefing Benjamin on precautions and care guidelines when the overpowering antiseptic smell in the room became too uncomfortable for me. I grabbed my bag and headed out to wait for him in the hallway. But the moment I stepped out the door, I unexpectedly came face to face with a familiar figure. Domingo leaned irritably against the hospital wall. The moment his gaze met mine, his eyes lit up. But as soon as he noticed the sign behind me, the maternity department, his expression twisted into something cold and mocking. "Laura, is this the little game you're playing?" I instantly grasped his meaning. With a smile, I was just about to speak when a concerned, chiding voice chimed in from behind. "Why are you standing here? You should be sat down and waited for me." Before I could react, Benjamin slipped his arm around my waist, pulling me closer as he took the bag from my hand. "You're too thin," he chided gently. "You'll need to eat more from now on." Domingo stared at the interaction between Benjamin and me, his eyes filled with disbelief. After a long moment, he finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Who is he?" I extended my ring-adorned hand with a serene smile. 33 and married." Domingo's eyes were fixed intently on my ringed hand, his face twisting with disbelief and anger. "No, impossible. Laura, you loved me so much, how could you possibly marry another man?" Benjamin furrowed his handsome brows at the slightly deranged man before him and pulled me tightly into his embrace. Bending his head, he asked softly, "Who is he?" "I suppose you could call him an ex-boyfriend," I replied with a gentle smile. Yet the warmth of the scene before him seemed to sting Domingo's eyes like a thorn. He strode forward, staring at Benjamin with a malicious edge to his voice. "You have no idea what your wife was like with me," he sneered. "She obeyed my every whim, we did every position imaginable." "Domingo." My voice cracked through the air like a whip, interrupting his vile words. I stared at him wide-eyed, a mixture of shock and revulsion contorting my features. Never in my life had I imagined he could be this despicable, publicly uttering such vile words just to belittle me. I was quivering with rage. Timidly, I looked over at Benjamin, anxious about his reaction. Benjamin's dark, inscrutable eyes gave nothing away as his hand came to rest gently on my back. Then he fixed a heavy gaze on Domingo, curling his lips into a mocking smile before speaking. "Seems my wife had piss-poor taste before. To end up with a scum like you." Domingo's eyes were bloodshot with rage as he swung a punch at Benjamin. But Benjamin seemed to have anticipated it in one motion. He clenched Domingo's fist and landed a solid punch. Domingo stumbled backward, his eyes ablaze with wrath like a lion's impotent fury. Soon the commotion attracted quite a crowd, especially when people saw two handsome men fighting. Some even pulled out their phones to snap pictures. Benjamin had no interest in further entanglement with Domingo. He closed the distance between them with measured steps, looking down at him with a derisive sneer. "A real man knows when to claim and when to relinquish. You failed to cherish her when you had the chance. What's this pitiful charade of affection now?" Domingo staggered upright, trembling with fury. "You don't mind her past? We spent 8 years together." Benjamin looked at Domingo with a derisive laugh. "If I love her, I accept every part of her. Only those who love inadequately would bother weighing pros and cons." Then his gaze swept across the crowd. His voice dropped colder, carrying an oppressive weight. "If any video from today surfaces online, I'll have my lawyers sue the uploaders into bankruptcy." Perhaps Benjamin's cold expression was truly intimidating. Several people holding up their phones immediately switched them off. A few even fumbled to shut down their cameras completely. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. "He looks familiar. Isn't that Benjamin Chen from the Chen family?" "Exactly. My younger sister mentioned he's also a part-time university lecturer." So accomplished yet so fiercely protective of his wife, I'm totally in love. Domingo, having evidently caught the murmurs as well, turned to Benjamin with a venomous glare, his teeth gritted. You're Benjamin? Benjamin lowered his gaze, contemplatively studying the figure in the distance with scrutinizing intensity. Though he remained silent, to onlookers, his lack of denial was tantamount to admission. Domingo looked at me, his eyes filled with panic and helplessness. If it had been an ordinary man, he would have had countless ways to make him leave Laura. But this was Benjamin Chin, a man whose family influence rivaled his own. Domingo's confidence crumbled. Laura, I know you're only with him to spite me. Marry me instead, come back. I furrowed my brows, just as I was about to speak when a young girl came running from a distance. She rushed up to Domingo and tried to help him up. But Domingo violently flung her aside. The girl had already been pale, and the moment she was flung to the ground, she seemed as though she might shatter into pieces. Clutching her stomach, the girl looked at Domingo pleadingly, her voice trembling with pain. Domingo, my stomach hurts, it's so bad, so bad. A second later, crimson blood stained through the little girl's white dress. Security guards restrained Domingo, and the girl was rushed to receive emergency treatment. As I was leaving, Domingo grabbed the hem of my coat, his eyes glistening with moisture. Laura. I was wrong. Could you please give me another chance? I tugged my clothing free from his grip and looked into his eyes calmly. Domingo, we're done. Cherish the person who's here with you now. When we left the hospital, Benjamin supported me carefully, yet he remained completely silent. A lingering unease stirred within me. Finally, after we had settled into the car, I asked hesitantly, do you regret marrying me? Benjamin gazed at me blankly. Regret what? My voice trembled beyond my control, as if I were on the verge of tears. Do you regret being with me? Benjamin suddenly looked panicked as he stared at me. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? I'm fine, I said through gritted teeth. Answer my question. Why would I ever regret that? Because I never told you about my past, I whispered, my voice trembling. You married me while being kept in the dark. Benjamin let out a resigned chuckle, his large hand wiping away the tear at the corner of my eye. His voice emerged deep and husky with amusement. Miss Laura, if I wanted to know about your past, do you truly think I'd need to ask you? I've known about you and Domingo for a long time. I looked at him in confusion. How did you know? Domingo's social circle doesn't overlap with yours at all. Benjamin fondly tweaked my nose. The circle's small enough. Some things become known without needing to ask. I opened my mouth to speak, but he interrupted me with an amused murmur. What if I said I had my eye on you even back when you were still revolving around Domingo? How would you feel? WH. What? I was utterly stunned by Benjamin's words, my eyes wide and fixed on him in a daze. Benjamin leaned in closer, his forehead gently pressing against mine. Our breaths intertwined. I heard him whisper softly, I've liked you all along. Later I learned that the reason I ran into Domingo at the hospital that day was because he had brought his new girlfriend there for an abortion. And that shove it had landed her straight in the ICU. Apparently, her body was extremely fragile after the abortion, and Domingo had used his full strength with that shove. Because there were so many onlookers that day, the incident quickly blew up into a major controversy. The backlash was massive, and Domingo's family, in an attempt to minimize the damage to their reputation, made a swift decision. Within a few weeks, they sent him abroad to gain experience at one of their international branches. It was clear he wouldn't be coming back anytime soon, at least not for another 3 to 5 years. On the day Domingo left, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Unsuspectingly, I answered it. A prolonged silence hung on the other end. Just as I was about to scream, "What kind of psycho does this?" when Domingo's raspy voice finally came through. Laura, if I had told you back then that I wanted to marry you, would I be the one with you now? Domingo, even if we had gotten married, we wouldn't have lasted. I realize now that I never loved you. Infatuation and love are entirely different things. A pause, then a shaky breath. Laura. Farewell, Domingo. Have a safe journey, and may we never cross paths again. After hanging up, I saw Benjamin busily preparing a prenatal meal for me in the kitchen. I walked up behind him, wrapped my arms around his firm waist, and murmured, "Benjamin, once you provoked me, it's for a lifetime." Benjamin let out a quiet chuckle. I wouldn't he have it any other way.